go. And again, I'm not 100% sure how far I should stretch it out. So I'm going to stretch out just slightly past that arc. Then I'm going to move my cursor over here to the red. I'm going to click, hold, and drag. If I start dragging to the left, I'm going to quickly learn that that's not going to be the correct direction. So no problem. I'm just going to rotate it around, get it going in the right direction. And then I'm going to keep dragging and see if it actually lines up as accurately as it should. Now you'll also notice, even though this is not a straight line that we're creating, these directional handles can be controlled by keeping them in a perfect horizontal or perfect vertical positioning as well. And you use the exact same technique by holding down the shift key. Notice how my line jumps to being nice and straight and smooth as far as my handles go. Sorry, terminology were there. My directional handles now are very, very smooth, and it stays in perfect horizontal alignment. Now, as I drag here, I can see that the top arc is doing a fairly good job of being in the center of that gray background template, but my bottom arc is obviously not. So that means I'm gonna have to go back here and do some editing. And I'm probably gonna have to use my directional handle because that allows me to select individual points, which happens to be the second tool in the toolbar. It's that white triangle. And when I click on the point, it then gives me or reveals those directional handles again. And now I can take one and drag it over to the left a little bit more. And now you can see how it starts to position itself better or more accurately in the center of that gray. Now, again, if it's not 100% correct, I probably have to make some adjustments up and down with this point just to make sure. So don't strive for perfection now or in any of these exercises. Obviously, that's going to come with a lot more practice and whatnot. The biggest thing is just to understand the concept of how do I make a straight line versus a curved line, and how do I use these directional handles to control the direction and the curvature and all that kind of stuff. Everybody all right?
Again.
Okay. All right, now this one's going to be a little bit more complicated because now we're actually making a continuous arc, and obviously that continual arc is a serpentine, which means it's going to initially go up, then it goes down, then it goes up, then it goes down, up, and then down. So again, we're going to practice on this top one first because it's obviously got points, and the red dots, of course, indicate where we should be dragging our handles first. And then, of course, you're going to go down and basically repeat the step without any of those red guides. And you're going to see how it's not going to be perfect. But as long as you get the understanding of making the serpentine, that's going to be the thing that you want to walk away from. So I'm going to start up here with the one, click, hold, and drag all in one motion. So it's a click, hold, and drag. That gives me the directional handle. I'm dragging up because the first arc is going up, and I'm going to drag to this first dot. Then I'm going to move my cursor. And again, in Illustrator, it has the nice benefit of you seeing kind of a preview of the line's shape depending on where you might click next. So if I was to click way over here, you can see how that path is going to arc accordingly. I'm going to go over here to step 2. I can see that it's obviously not a perfect arc yet, but once I click, hold, and drag, again, all in one motion, I'm going to drag down to the red dot, and now that affects the backside, and now I'm pretty close. Then I'm going to go back over here to step number 3, click, hold, and drag up to the red dot, release my mouse, just move my cursor. I get a preview of what the path is going to look like. Go over to step number 4, click, hold, and drag down to the red dot, release my mouse, go to step number 5, click, hold, and drag up to the red dot, release my mouse, and then wrap it up by going to step number 6. I still have to click, hold, and drag because this is a curved line. And this time I'm just going to drag down to the red dot, release my mouse, then hit the letter V so I get my selection tool, and then there's my serpentine. So if you haven't already tried that, go ahead and try it. Once you complete it, drop down here to the bottom artboard and go ahead and experiment with this. Obviously not having the red dots as a guide, you're just going to have to visually make an assumption based on the previous activity. Hey, Danielle.
Can you hear me?
Hey, if I close out the mini screen that shows me personally, it's still recording my screen for the video, right?
Yeah, if you look up in the left corner, it shows a little red dot flashing and it says recording.
Okay.
But it does take off our ability to unmute ourselves.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, if we pull up the participants thing, then we should be able to do it.
Gotcha.
I'm just holding down my space bar right now so I can unmute myself.
Gotcha.
So if you didn't know, you could do that if you hold down the space bar.
No, that's cool.
But yeah.
So again, if you want to go back and refine it, you can drag the, change to the direct selection tool. That's the white arrow. Now notice if you move one handle, it also affects the opposite side. Okay, so you do want to pay attention to that. Don't get all crazy with your movement. Otherwise, it's going to get potentially worse. Everybody get that one completed?
Sort of.
Is anybody still working on it? I'm not trying to rush. I just don't want you sitting there waiting for me.
No, I got it. It's just not as pretty as it was when we had the guidelines.
That's typical. That's all good. That just comes with practice. Okay, so as I just pointed out, at least at this point, when you use the direct selection tool, the white arrow, and you click on a point, you do get access to both handles. But when you move a handle, notice it affects the opposite side as well. However, I'm getting ready to show you technique that will eliminate that, because like in this particular case up here in exercise number 5, we're now doing just all up arcs. There is no downward arc. So obviously what we were doing previously is not going to work in order for us to get this perfect, just continuous upside arc. So I do suggest you watch me on this one first. It's going to hopefully eliminate a lot of stress, and then I'll give you plenty of time to work through it. So again, I'm going to work on the top artboard with all of our little indicators here. I'm going to go to step number 1. I'm going to click, hold, and drag up to the red dot. Pretty easy. We've been doing that all night long so far. Then I'm going to go over to step number 2. I'm going to click and drag down. That's exactly the same as well, because that's what's going to give me this upward arc. However, once my cursor hits this yellow dot, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the option key. Oh, sorry. I'm going to hold down the option key. And now notice it allows me to move one handle without altering the other handle. Okay, so that option key allows me to manipulate one side without manipulating the other side. And while I still have the option key held down, I'm now going to move my cursor to this red dot because, of course, my next arc has to go up, and therefore the handle that I'm moving is telling Illustrator that the next arc or path is going in an upward motion. So now I'll release my mouse. Notice as I move my cursor, it's already back in an upward arc. I'm going to go over to step number 3. Click, hold, and drag down to the yellow dot. That gives me the arc. Hold down the Option key. Now that I can move one handle without affecting the top handle, I move this directional handle up to the red dot, letting the Illustrator know that the next path needs to go upward. And then you basically just repeat those steps. So, oops, sorry. So you're going to click, hold, drag, and go down to the yellow. Hold down the Option key, up to the red dot. And you basically just repeat those steps.
Do you release the mouse before you hit the Option key?
You don't have to. You can, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Practice one on this one's probably a little bit more fun, right? Again, don't worry about perfection.